Tuesday, August 14th, 2012. It's kind of hard to believe that 2012 is just about over, and there's a there's a lot of things that hasn't been done and hasn't been said. But thank you for tuning into this episode of My Two Cents. And I thought I'd do a little something different with this particular episode, and I went to my Facebook family to find out what I should talk about this particular episode. Though I didn't get as many responses as I hoped for, I did get a few that should be discussed with you all. With that said, let's get to work. First on the agenda today is, of course, the Olympics. They had their closing ceremonies last night, and though I didn't watch all of the Olympics, I've heard that the Americans won a good amount of medals during this competition. As you can see, I'm wearing a USA basketball jersey to commemorate to commemorate Team USA for their efforts and them basically representing America the way they did. I'm not, though I'm not entirely sure on how often the Olympics occur, but I do know that when the Olympics occur, that the Americans, or Team USA, I should say, goes out there and basically puts on one hell of a performance. You know, of course, we have Michael Phelps, Vanilla Flowers, and there's probably a couple other very world-class Olympic Olympic athletes I could probably name off the top of my head, which I can't right now. I mean, it is kind of early in the morning, but there are some people who I think could probably fit into that same category as being a world-class athlete. But with football season coming around the corner and several preseason college and NFL games kicking off right about now, you guys are probably wondering my picks on who is going to win both the national championship and the Super Bowl. Well, I'm not that much into pro football as much as I am into college football. But if I was very heavily into pro football like I am college football, I'd have to say that it would have to be in between the defending Super Bowl champs New York Giants, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and quite possibly either the Carolina Panthers, the New England Patriots, or the Dallas Cowboys. Either one of those. I would say the Dolphins all the way, but I've yet to see or hear anything coming from the Dolphins camp as of yet. So my predictions on that may change. College football, on the other hand, is a no-brainer. The the conference powerhouse, if you will, of college football is without a shadow of a doubt the Southeastern Conference. Hands down. You've got LSU, Alabama, Auburn, and almost to a point Mississippi State. But I'm not really counting Mississippi State. I mean, you got LSU, you got Alabama, you got Auburn, you got at least three major powerhouse players in the SEC. I think Alabama and LSU are in the West, Auburn's in the East. And if I'm thinking right, and if my memory serves me correctly, the past 7 to 9 national championships that have occurred, the SEC has come out on top. As a matter of fact, the last few national championship games, the SEC conference has walked away with the national championship. And at first it was Florida, then I think it was Bama, and it was I'm not sure actually how the timeline went on, but I do know for a fact that the last 3 years, the national championship has basically been here in the state of Alabama. I would say it had to be in between the second or third season that Nick Saban was in Alabama. It was when Bama won their national championship. The very next year, Auburn won, and this went back before Saban and Chiswick took over their respective schools. Saban for Alabama and Chiswick for Auburn. I stated that before they leave their respective schools, both Saban and Chiswick is going to have at least one undefeated championship run. Later on that season, Bama won, and the very next season, during Auburn's run towards the national championship, I had a good friend of mine, Flying Brian Reese by name. He was an Auburn fan, and unfortunately, he passed away during his memorial services. His mom mentioned it would be something if Auburn was to win the national championship this year. And lo and behold, both my prediction and Brian's mom's prediction actually came true that same season. Auburn ended up winning the national championship. And since the national title trophy itself stayed within the state of Alabama, and despite the fact I'm a Crimson Tide fan, man, I have no shame in saying War Eagle, you know? So that's for you Auburn fans out there who's watching. Don't get too comfortable, though. The very next year afterwards, it looked like Bama would be on track to go another undefeated season en route to the national title. But their undefeated streak was curbside by LSU. And basically Bama, since that since LSU handed them their first loss, was cringing at the fact on when they would get their opportunity to extract revenge on LSU, so to speak, and give them their first loss. And since their first loss to LSU, Bama basically came back and returned to the national championship spotlight with a vengeance. And what kind of interests me about how the season played out last year, no one didn't want to see an LSU-Alabama rematch, especially when it came to the national championship. No one wanted to see it. They already saw Alabama and LSU go at it, and they saw LSU win. They didn't want to see. They didn't want to. They didn't want to see. They didn't want to see a rematch. I honestly wanted to. You know, I wanted to see what would have happened if the rules were reversed and Bama would have won. You know, I wanted to see. Needless to say, that Bama walked away last season with the national championship, which in turn makes the state of Alabama the very first state within the U.S. to obtain the national title from two different schools for 3 years in a row. The season before last, it was Bama. 2 seasons before last was Alabama. The season before last was Auburn. And then last season was Alabama yet again. Now, one of the teams. Well, actually, there are a few teams that will be looking at this season, aside from Alabama, since I'm a Bama fan. But another team I will be looking at this season is the Auburn Tigers. Now, I say when Cam Newton left Auburn to go pro, there was a lot of good Auburn starters that went with him that left. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Chizik can do with basically a fresh new Auburn Tiger lineup. As far as Alabama is concerned, it's going to be interesting to see how the Crimson Tide responds to them basically being a target for basically every other college team that's out there. I mean, I will admit Bama has lost some key players, but they still have A.J. McCarron, who I think is either in his junior or senior year. So should A.J. McCarron decide to go pro this year, after the season ends, then Bama will end up losing McCarron. I mean, Julio gone. Richardson's been gone. And if Hightower hasn't left yet, he'll be leaving after this season. Another team I'll be looking at and looking forward to seeing in action is LSU. Their All-American defensive back, I think the position he plays, Mathau, has been dismissed from the team. For what reason, I don't know. And care less, actually. Because obviously he did something he wasn't supposed to do, and he paid the price for it. That's all I'm going to say about sports in general. So